started.
Recording in progress.
Hey, how's everybody doing? It's really too bad that the four of you aren't going to be here. I know you couldn't make it. You want to. I know you want to, because we have a lot of. We have all the hands we're going to get, I guess, for now. We're going to lift all that stuff. That pile. And those blocks, we're going to put them outside. Again, stow them away so they're nice and ready for to install them. The shade structure. And then we're going to bring in the two 6x6 posts. And maybe not the beam ends. I don't know. They're pretty hefty. You know. We'll maybe go out there and do it. I don't know. I don't have the laptop. I don't know where it is. I'll look in the other classroom.
Oh yeah, it's over there.
It is?
Yeah, from past classes.
So I'm just not sure how Zoom will work for that. I guess we could conceivably carry those things in here. It might be a lot better to do it in here, but we'll just see how the evening shapes up, okay? For everybody. So everybody here healthy? Everybody over there healthy? You healthy? You healthy? Everybody's healthy?
Yeah.
We are now firmly back in Santa Barbara. I took my coach to, let's see, is that Daniel?
Yeah.
Took my coach to Barber RV today. 22 item laundry list of stuff to be done. From pretty small, and most of it's stuff I can do, so we'll see what numbers they come up with. But man, RVing's, you know, when you're RVing, you're like really into RVing, and so now I'm kind of like at loose ends trying to get back from being home. Miguel is here. All right, good. Zoom. Daniel came in. How about, I see, is loose, Alex, no, hadn't shown up. Trent? What did I want to tell you? Met some really great people over at Rancho Oso. Really nice couple who were our neighbors. We had a real blast with, I had a blast with. I can never tell about my wife. Hope you don't. I hope she doesn't go on my YouTube channel. Just watch this stuff. I kind of doubt it. Like it would never happen.
How was
So-
your music night? Was you playing music with all of them?
Yeah, I forgot to bring my flutes. So forgot to bring a flute. So she played some great. She's a great fiddler. You know, professional fiddler. Bluegrass is her thing, but she can play all kinds of fiddle. She has a 5-string. Amplified. She didn't bring an amp, so it's a nice, has a nice mellow sound without an amp. Acoustically, it's you know, it's an acoustic 5-string violin with a pickup. Man, she's good. She's really good, and they're pretty good singers too. She and her husband. So we did some singing, and then we did a little bit of stuff at the trailer. We'll get together and play music. I love to play music. I haven't played music in too long. So long. There's Josh. All right, Josh, how you feeling?
Hey, I still feel the same.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for coming and hanging in there. Hang in there
Yeah.
as long as you can. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I gotta get my lip back. I don't know how to do it. So, anybody got anything they want to talk about or add before we get into the meat of all this stuff? How about last week though? Did anybody like that? Making that, you know, we made that cutting guide. Remember that? We made the cutting guide. Remember we made the cutting guide? And so I was telling Lou when most of you guys were gone that I've had that lesson about the cutting guide, about making the cutting guide and the door stuff, but I've never done it like I did it last night. I've never actually built it. I've always described it and drawn on the board and stuff like that. And I always thought I should probably just do it. And so it felt pretty good. And because I know, I also found this interesting when I was relating that to Lewis, that I'm also very aware of at the point where I say, the real line is when we cut it, when we make that first cut, right? And it cuts that, that's exactly what that thing's gonna cut and not the width we make it first. You could see a few people would never really get that, and I would say, and then they would go, okay, yeah, cut it. Doesn't mean anything, but you could not get it. You could not get it here, watching it happen, So our cutting guy is there, all ready to go to cut any doors or anything else. That door's cut nice and clean. Yeah, I enjoyed that too. Because I had talked about making those for years and years and years. And now I've got one. We've got one, and you all can make one too, if you want. Okay, so I'll check for a while here. No Jesus. What's going on with Jesus? He might come late. And Alex. Jesus and Alex now.
Hey Ronnie, I've got a question about the
Fire-
door.
fire away.
Trimming the bottom of the door. So
Yes.
we have one that we got from grounds at SBCC, and we use it as a desk in our office, and it looks like the ends that they cut, you can see inside of it.
Yeah.
So that means they cut it too much, right?
Yeah.
Cut the,
Yes. But you get limited by what you need. So, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So doors, when you go buy a door blank, or you go find somebody's boneyard, right? Go, let me have a damaged door, and make a desk out of it. It doesn't need to be in all that good shape. When you buy a door, it's gonna be 6'8", or it's gonna be 7'0". More than likely, it's gonna be 80 inches, right? So you're gonna have a door that's 80 inches tall by, let's say you just got one that is slightly damaged, and it's 30 inches by 8 inches. You're talking about a slab door. Is it a masonite skin door? Or is it a birch, mahogany, oak? What's the surface?
it looks hollow inside.
What's
so
the surface?
I'm not sure. It looks pretty cheap.
Well, is it painted like those? Is it masonite or is
It's
it wood?
It's painted. It's white. It's painted.
And is it more like this, or is it more like painted wood? You can really tell that that's a masonite.
It's probably what it's
As
probably
opposed to, paint on this, of course, this is clear, but
yeah,
paint
no,
on this feels good.
it's not wood.
Okay, so it's mason.
Or if it is, it's like
So
cheap
which
particle
is
board.
fine for a desk, except hollow core door is not fine.
Right. Yeah. It's all wood.
Yeah, it doesn't give you the kind of support that you really need. So a solid core door would be a lot better. Right. A solid core door has a particle board core, but solid core and hollow core doors both. And let's for a minute just forget about the columnist type, which are pressed and have kind of wood grain, and there's multi-panels. And just talk about solid core and hollow core doors as slab face doors, like those doors, right? Slab face. Before the masonite goes on both sides, they build a door frame. They build it with a style. It's usually, and you can get the specs on this. It's usually 1 7/8 or 2 1/4. It's some random thing that they come up with. And then same size, 1 3/4 or 2 1/4 top rail styles, and then a little wider bottom rail. They give you like a 3 1/4 bottom rail because doors do often have to be cut. And then they give you a pretty good sized lock rail, with the center of it being about center line at 36. That's pretty much where they put it. And then they skin the door, and in a hollow core door, they run little pieces of cardboard in there like that, just to keep it from collapsing, right? On end pieces of cardboard, very thin, but celled cardboard, right? Like a cardboard box with the cells, with paper on both sides, and then that cell on there, which is relatively stiff by itself. And so that keeps it from collapsing. And then when you push on it, plus it's 1/8 to 1/4, probably more like 3/16. But at minimum 1/8, probably use 1/8 rather than 1/4. And both sides, it's a big sandwich, right? And the same thing is true of a solid core door, only rather than have this just be filled in, this is solid particle board, heavy. Solid particle board, all particle board. No scab, no space. And what happened with your door, your hollow core doors, they either at the top rail or the bottom rail, they cut it off and cut all that off. As now you're just looking at this hollow and looking up in there and you can kind of see that cardboard. So when we have to do something like that, when we're at a site, Trent, and we're looking at, we have to cut down a door and we have an 80-inch door, that's what's available to us. And let's say we need something like, this thing has got to be like 73 inches. Got to cut it down to 73 inches. Well, you know, if it's close, you might shave a little off the top and a little off the bottom, because you still want to keep the integrity of the frame of the door. Plus, you know, being able to cut it, it just weakens the heck out of the door when you cut away the top rail or the bottom rail. Or if you happen to plane it or have to plane it enough or shrink it enough where you actually cut away your stiles. The integrity of the door is lost. Usually not completely, because when you make a sandwich of a door, you put two, you know, I mean, you've made a sandwich, so you can lose a lot of integrity and still have a door close. But you need this solid piece here for the screws of your butt hinges to go into. It's got to go into solid wood. So if you're going to take anything off, you take it off the latch side, not the hinge side. You want to leave it as much as possible. And then the latch side, you've got a mortise in your strike, and you've got a bore. You know, you've got to have at least enough to mortise in your strike, or I'm sorry, your latch. Your strike goes into your jam. Your latch, your tubular latch, or whatever kind of latch is going in that door. So if you're cutting a 73 inch, a door that needs to be 73 inches from an 80-inch book door, and you know full well you're going to cut this off, you cut it at 73, and then you make a piece of whatever the interior of that door is. And if it is indeed 1/8, and it's an 1 3/8 door, and it's an 1/8 inch masonite on both sides, that's a quarter. So now it's a 1 1/8. So you should have a 1 1/8 inch space in it. You should be taking some 1 1/8 inch glitter, fir, pine, whatever, milling it to exactly so it fits in there and slipping in there. So if you look at the edge of the door, you'll see the end of that style. You'll see the end of that style. And of course the sani, the masonite, whatever's on it, and the masonite, right? And then this is this void. And you need to reblock it. Just shove that guy in there with a bunch of glue on it, clamp it, and let it go off. And now it's reblocked. And you've maintained the integrity of the door. It's called cutting and reblocking the door. And any slab door, if you cut X amount off of it, you're going to need to reblock it. Now let's just say you just need to do it at like 89, or I'm sorry, 79 or 78 and a half, something like that, right? Then maybe you will want to go ahead and take like 1/2 inch or 3/4 off the top first, so you don't completely lose the integrity of that top rail. Take the rest of a little wider bottom rail, so you don't have to reblock it. Because reblocking is a big hassle. It's time. It takes time, and time is money. Right? Okay, so that's reblocking. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Some depth. It's just these erasers. You just I get some erasers, I guess. I guess that's the next step. The whiteboard, I come in and the whiteboard looks so good, and then you put something on it and erase it, and it's not erased by any stretch of anybody's imagination. Okay, so doors. Big part of the finished carpenter's art. Tonight, we're gonna do routing. We're gonna talk about routing. At one point, we'll go through some stuff I have up here for you to share on Canvas, and then when we get going, we'll put those rafters outside and those blocks outside, and we'll bring in the posts, and we'll do the posts first. We'll figure out. I think I got enough information. I know I got enough information to figure out the posts. So we can route the posts, and we should be able to route the beams too. Okay, so here we go. Share the screen. Oh, well, and hopefully Orange is good as his word. We'll see, won't we? Should see.
One light?
Yes, please, one light. One light, one is all.
Was it this classroom we had a problem, or the other classroom?
The other classroom, not this one. So Jim, did Jim have light last night?
Yeah.
Wait,
Patrick was having
No,
problems. with
no.
it.
last night?
No, Jim's worked,
Yeah, yeah.
and then,
Well, when
then
was,
Patrick
when
was
was
at-
Jim there?
Saturday. We did classroom.
Really? And that worked on Saturday?
It worked on Saturday, but then Patrick was having troubles with it. but
It
then-
didn't work for us the Wednesday
I
before.
know,
It's weird.
yeah.
Okay, when you launch me,
How did you end up getting it?
Okay,
Uh,
what am I going
change
to?
the input. We had it set to something else.
Okay, here we are. Is it projecting? All right, good. By George, it is projecting. And the folks at home can see it, and the folks in the classroom can see it. All of you folks. So here's something interesting. Week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is week 7. Now, we should have a 16-week class. Pretty sure we're 16-week class. We're supposed to be 16-week class. We did not start late. We don't have any unfortunately, we have no holidays that fall on Tuesday. I guess we get spring break.
We started a week late, right?
Did we?
Yeah.
But we're going a week further, so we're going a week additional. We're going an additional week, so.
I don't
We
know
didn't-
if the-
we didn't gain anything. That additional week cancels that week out, but spring break is in there. Anyway, I'll lay it out. But I'm not gonna have a midterm next week. I'll have it the week after. So I'll prep you next week for a midterm. Just give you some idea what you can expect and how it's gonna look like, and then we'll do a midterm the week following, and that midterm will be on. You'll take it on Canvas. Come here and take it. We'll figure out how we're gonna do that. Because there's just enough people. I do it as a paper test, but if there's people at home, I can't do it. So we'll do it on Canvas actually, which is what I'm gonna do. The last week's recording is up for what it's worth, and we are recording now, right? Yes, we are. So let's do our safety. It's on ladder safety. Ladder safety is no joke to some of you have maybe heard me mention this, but I had a job super who is since deceased years ago. But he fell off a ladder, a 6-foot ladder, working on a carport we were doing as part of a house we built. And he landed on his shoulder and he wrecked his shoulder. He was like out of work for almost a year. Just, it's not, he didn't fall very far, and you don't have to fall very far. The interesting thing is, you guys can't see this at home, but when you're short, you don't have to fall very far, right? When you're tall, you fall a lot farther. So little kids don't get hurt as much as they could get hurt because they just don't have that far to go. And they don't have that much weight or momentum to do soft tissue damage. Hello, Alex. Did you make it? But adults, full-size adults, have a lot more mass and they fall from a greater height. And the reason I know this is because I had a great experience when I was with my kids and some other kids in a cabin in Oak Creek Canyon outside of Sedona, heading towards Flagstaff, but in this lodge called Garland's Oak Creek Lodge. We went there every year for 12 years, spring and winter, and then maybe just spring. But we were leaving our kids, they're little kids. Our kids were little kids at the time. I forget, pretty little. One of them was real little. Leaving with a babysitter in a cabin with some other couple's kids. And this one kid did not want his dad to go, and his dad was really uptight. See, his dad was really uptight. And my kids, because so there was a lot of there was some energy around here that was kind of scary for my kids. And both my kids were like hanging on to me, right? And I'm down on my knees looking at this dad who's he's a tall guy. He's not a basketball player guy, but he's tall enough. And he gets tangled up in the legs of his kid, right? Who's hanging on to him and doesn't want him to go. And the guy falls. I was like, from where I was down here, I was like experiencing like my kids were. It was like watching this guy fall. It was like watching a tree fall. And then boom! I mean, the table shook, the chairs shook, every kid in the room was screaming bloody murder. And it was chaos. Just a guy falling down, right? But from the perspective of a little person, it's a big fall. It's a big fall. So that's my story about falling. Two of my stories about falling. So ladder safety. So you don't even need, you don't have to be on a ladder to get hurt either. You can fall down and get hurt at any point. But when you're on a ladder, then your feet aren't even on the ground, right? Because when your feet are on the ground, you have some options into how you fall, if you can roll, what you land on, hopefully. But from a ladder, you have way less options. Even one step up on a ladder. When attempting to reach something at an inaccessible height, it may seem easier to use a replacement for a ladder, such as furniture. But it isn't worth the potential danger. Statistics show that every year about 30,000 people will be incapacitated by ladder and ladder replacement involved accidents. Fortunately, almost all these accidents can be prevented by a sturdy ladder and a firm foundation for the ladder to rest upon. How about Miguel? Can you read that? Are you at home? Are you there? Listen, Miguel Barbosa.
Yeah, I'm here.
Fire away.
Shit. Oh, let me zoom in again.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. You know what, Miguel? You still on your phone?
Yeah.
Never mind. No, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting you're on your phone, and it's not very hard, very easy.
Yeah, I just cleaning up
So
here at the job site a little bit.
don't bother doing that. Zach, would you read for us, please? Choose the right ladder.
Choose the right ladder for the job. When choosing a ladder, always check to make sure that it is tall enough and steady enough for the task in question. Keep in mind the weight and size of the instruments and tools you have to utilize. There are several kinds of ladders that are measured in sturdiness. Type 1 is an industrial style ladder and can contain up to 250 pounds. Type 2 goes up to 225 pounds. And Type 3, designed for household tasks, can handle 200. Make sure not to put too much weight on any of these or it could result in an accident. If your job includes exposure to electrical wires, never use a metal ladder, as this is a frequent cause of electrocution, especially if you're working with power lines. Wooden ladders, as well as non-conductive fiberglass ladders, are good replacements, but make sure the wooden ones stay dry.
Good one. Trent. Inspect.
Inspect the ladder before you use it. Investigate every ladder before using it. Make sure the spreaders can be locked in place and that the feet at the base are in place and the rest flat on the ground. Ladders constructed out of metal of all kinds need plastic or rubber on the steps and feet. Also be sure that its steps aren't too narrow for you to maintain balance. Keep in mind that loose and damaged rungs can appear to be stable, but if too much pressure is applied and the ladder begins to twist, it can lead to a hazard. Cracks can also occur. If something is loosened or there is a missing part that can be replaced, then you might be able to fix that yourself. However, if there is significant damage, simply throw it out and invest in a new one.
Okay, how about Evan Kasoy from home?
Set up your ladder carefully. Place your ladder on a firm, level surface with its feet parallel to the wall it's resting against. If there is traffic or it's crowded where you're trying to work, you can put something up separating you from the crowd as to avoid people crashing into you. A common way for discerning where you put a ladder is the 4-to-1 rule, which implies setting the ladder 1 foot from the structure in relation to every 4 feet the ladder is tall.
Okay, somebody around here. How about D'Angelo?
Never face away from the ladder when going up or falling down. Use both hands and only keep the tools on you that are absolutely necessary. Use courage to
cordage to elevate heavy apparatus.
So apparatus. When using power tools, be sure the ladder is sturdily tied down. Ascend and descend the ladder with caution. It is very common for accidents to occur due to overreaching. With this in mind, always make sure you center yourself on the ladder. Only let one individual use the ladder at a time. Wearing shoes that are non-slip and don't get on the ladder if your shoes or hands are wet. Always keep in mind that the top two rungs are not to be used as steps, as this is extremely dangerous. Always remember that someone should be stabilizing the ladder from below.
Ben?
Reach new heights in safety. It doesn't take much to ensure safety when using a ladder as long as you adhere to 4 simple guidelines. 1. Use the ladder appropriate for the task at hand. Check the ladder for damage or other things that could lead to unsafe use. Thoroughly set the ladder up and do not rush. Climb with caution. Don't climb with wet feet or hands. Do have a spotter to steady the ladder.
Oh. Okay. Anybody want to comment or any questions about this safety topic?
Yeah, the sentence where they
Go ahead.
the sentence where they said use cordage to elevate heavy apparatuses. Could you go into a little bit of context when you do that?
Use ropes.
For what kinds of things, though? What qualifies as a heavy apparatus?
Well, big old power buster, something like that. You know, something that weighs over 20 or 30 pounds, something that you can carry with one hand. You might want to, you know, you don't want to hang off your ladder with one hand while holding a compressor, pumping it up a ladder to another floor. Stuff like that. That's what they mean by that. If it's too heavy to carry safely and easily with one hand, then you need to, rather than try to do it unsafely with one hand, then you should get cordage. You get a rope to pull it up from up above.
Yeah, when I was in roofing, we would attach something to the ladder and we would use a rope just to pull up like tile.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, just about anything. That it would help out a lot.
Yeah, it does. So if you're moving stuff, if you're moving tools and material up and down a ladder, and not just yourself, then you should use some cordage, rope, something to get the stuff up and down rather than humping it up and down yourself.
That makes sense. I appreciate both those perspectives.
Yeah, and I think that's how I understand what they mean by cordage. But the thing about a ladder is there's one kind of ladder that's the best kind of ladder. What kind is it? And I don't mean of the type of ladder, because there are extension ladders, step stool type ladders, there's convertible ladders, there's a rolling ladders, there's a variety of ladders, but the material the ladder is made from, there's only one kind you should buy. What kind is that? Exactly, fiberglass. Wood ladders get loose, break, fall apart. I've had wood ladders they just don't last like a fiberglass ladders. They're not as strong. To get the strength of a fiberglass ladder, they would have to be a lot thicker than they are, and then consequently they'd be a heck of a lot heavier. Aluminum ladders are just too flimsy. Although aluminum ladders are cheaper, you can buy aluminum extension ladders a lot cheaper. So an aluminum extension ladder, okay, but if you can afford it, just don't look at any kind of ladders but fiberglass ladders. Get fiberglass ladders. You won't be disappointed. The blue ones, the green ones, the yellow ones, the orange ones, they're all about the 250 rated. When you get them two sides, you get into the 300 and 400 pound rating ones, which you probably don't need if you're just working yourself. The ladders are a really important and good tool. So when you buy a ladder for yourself, buy a good ladder. Buy the ladders that you use. Eventually you'll probably have a stock of ladders, but in the meantime, a 6-foot ladder will serve you in a lot of situations. It'll get you to work on virtually any ceiling from a 6-foot ladder. 4-foot is a good ladder to have, but a 6-foot, if you can only carry around one or only have room for one or only have the money for one, start out with a 6-foot ladder. Step stools, step ladders, they're always good to have, those little collapsible stools as you get up on one stool. But as you start getting bigger, you start getting into 8s and 10s and 12s. But you'll buy them for the situations as they occur. And some of the things you need to know about ladders, besides the 4-to-1, which is always a good thing, you don't want them to ever be too steep. Sometimes you're circumscribed, your area is circumscribed, what you can do for the angle. But for an extension ladder, when you're climbing up to, say, a roof, right? With an extension ladder, fiberglass extension ladders are what's happening. They're heavier than aluminum, but they're sturdy, man. Is they need to run 4 foot past the roof. If you have an inspector coming to inspect your roof nailing or anything about your roof, he has to get up on your roof, you have to have that 4 foot above, and you have to have it anchored. You have to have it made off, tied off up above, and or he won't climb up. You shouldn't climb up it. It's not just right. And they're very specific about how they want ladders, and I don't blame them. You know, I wouldn't want to climb up on somebody's. Climbing up on other people's ladders, you pretty much are dependent upon them being the safe ones, right? So check it out before you get on a ladder that you didn't set up. And you will, over the course of your time here, you will set up. You will get on ladders in unsafe conditions. I guarantee you will. You get on ladders in unsafe conditions. You'll get on ladders in areas where you shouldn't even be using a ladder. Yep.
So it said to use a spotter when you're
Yeah.
on a ladder. Back when I used to work audio visual, we would put sandbags on both sides to
Yeah.
anchor it down.
Yeah,
What are your thoughts on that?
That's a great way to go. Because a lot of times a job can't afford somebody just holding the ladder for you. If you're working around your house and you're working with someone or your wife when you're not mad at her or something like that, get her to hold it for you. But if you're mad at her and she's mad at you, don't get her to hold it for you. She might not hold it. Exactly.
Oops.
Well, I was up on an 8-foot ladder doing something on my coach not that long ago, and I went over, and luckily she was there, not mad at me at the time. Stopped me from going over, but it would have been a nasty fall. I wouldn't have liked it at all. Yeah, falls are a drag, and the older you get, the worse falls are.
Speaking of ladders, James said that there was a 6-foot one in the tiny house.
Okay.
That's just disappeared. Nobody knows where it is. James and Patrick don't know where it is.
Well,
Yeah,
if James and Patrick don't have it, see, I never have tools. You know why? Because I bring them back. And you know why I know that? Because I'm the only one that brings them back. So I do not have the 6-foot ladder. That much I know for a fact, because I don't have any of the school's tools. Not one tool. I take it back. It's not a tool. I have a case of water I bought for the school, and I keep forgetting to throw it in my car and get it here for you guys. We have water. I got a case of bottles. So yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, that's just one thing that's. I like to ask somebody, let them remain nameless for now, where the, I don't know, dozen red BZ clamps that we used to have went. I can tell you this, they're not in my house. I bet you if I was to go through somebody's tools really well, I'd find them. Anyway, I'm digressing way because I'm just in that kind of mood, man. And I was in such a good mood yesterday. I just got from these friends of ours, the neighbors, right? I got this great way of looking at relationships and using this mantra, kind of as mantra of giving the other person in your relationship with, no matter what the relationship is really, grace and space. Love that idea. And I was able to do it a lot yesterday, but today's another day, I guess. You want to know what the whole thing was about? Okay, fine, I'll tell you what the whole thing was about. The whole thing was about when we got done dropping off the coach, I said, I'm kind of hungry. I want to stop and get something really fast and easy, like a blender. Even a McDonald's is something just fast. And, I want to get back by 3 because I like if I teach at 6, I like to have nothing to do between 3 and 6, so I can do some prep, but if not a nap, at least just do nothing for a half hour. So just kind of get over my days are usually doing stuff. It's like, oh, well, can we go there? Can we go to John's? I go, yeah. Finally, I said, fine. Hey, we'll just go wherever you want to go. Which should have been her cue to say, oh, no, honey, I know that you're just saying that. And you're really pissed off about the whole thing. Why don't we go to where you want to go? So we went to where she wanted to go. And it's like, I can't stand this place. And I didn't want to eat the food. So I had a little bit of it. And it's not my idea of a good time to sit there for 45 minutes and, on a busy street. Anyway,
What place was it?
it's a place called something bakery. She likes it. She used to take her mother there, and it was probably a nice salad, but not to me. Not today. It's in Ventura. It's on off Telephone Road in Ventura. It's in that big kind of complex where Target is. There's just too much going on there for me, and I just wanted to get on the road. I didn't want to sit in some dumb restaurant that I didn't want to eat at or even be at. And then the mango tea was really good. She got us both mango teas, right? And I really liked it. And I said something about it. She says, "Oh, there's free refills, right? There's free refills." So I go in. Oh yeah, can I get a refill on this? Yeah, we don't have refills. We don't do refills. I said, well, I was told by my wife that you do refills, so I'm gonna need a refill. Go, we don't do refills, sir. You need to get your wife. That didn't happen, but there was no refills. I didn't take it to that level, but in my mind, I'm going, really? Really? No refills? No, you told me there were refills, and there are no refills. You made me look like an idiot again. Pretty stupid, right? So the good news for me is that thank you so much for allowing me to vent for like just a few minutes. I feel like so much better already. I'm almost ready to let it go. Almost, not quite. Close. Maybe by the end of the time I'll be ready.
Hey, Ronnie, can you tell us how you really feel?
No. But I will tell you the ladders are dangerous, and I've almost eaten it really bad on ladders. I have eaten on ladders. Oh, and don't go down ladders facing out. Go down ladders backwards. Please go down ladders backwards. It's the best way. Just don't take ladders for granted. Be super safe because falling can be bad. And as a kid, I fell a lot and I got up a lot. As an adult, you don't get up as easy.
My neighbor, who's a contractor, he went down a ladder front ways.
Yeah.
And I think he turned or something.
Yeah.
At the bottom step.
Yep.
Messed up his knee, needed knee
Yep.
surgery.
Yep. Yeah. I watched my wife, again, it's a recurring theme, go down our attic ladder like this. I go, what? She somehow made it. Somehow. Boy, I gotta keep her away from YouTube for her whole life. So, okay, here we are, week 7 again. We're back at week 7, and I thought I would take you, well, because I want to route those chamfers on our shade structure stuff, which you guys get to do all the really fun stuff like cut birch melts, and we'll do this routing and get all the parts all routed up, kind of soften up the edges, but you won't be involved in the lab unless we could maybe work something out. If it turns out, because I don't think we're gonna do it this Saturday, I think we'll probably do it a week from Saturday. That's what I'm thinking of. I want to give Jim a chance to get through this if he's gonna get through it. I don't know what's happening, because his wife and his wife's family is in Kiev, and it's not good. It's pretty freaked out. But anyway, if you want to get involved, and enough of this Tuesday night class wants to get involved and participate in this lab that we're doing with 111, then we could call it a class. If we get enough people to do it, we could call it a class, and you guys could participate too. So think about that if you wanted, if you want to and or can substitute a Wednesday for a Saturday.
A lot of us are in that class.
Yeah, there's that too. I guess I could give you double up. So how could I do that? Maybe wear two hats or something.
Oh,
Two
that'd be cool.
masks.
Can one be front and one backwards?
Yeah, that would do it perfectly. That's right. A bunch of you are in that class anyway, so that may not work, but we'll figure something out. Maybe we'll have it for the CT111 because that is a Saturday class, and anybody from this class that doesn't have CT111 that wants to show up, we could do some kind of extra. Maybe you get a buy for a Wednesday or something like that. Jesus Bredo, did you make it? Well, only guy. So who doesn't know what a router is? Anybody know what a router is? So let's just take a look at edge routing. I thought this was pretty good. I looked at a bunch of stuff, being able to show you something, and I thought this guy's stuff was really good. Guy or gal, I'm not sure anymore who it is, but pretty darn good. So router edge guide. How to get perfect routed edges. Tips and techniques for pro quality profiles. So modern router bits with carbide cutters and guide bearings make forming wood edges almost foolproof. And when we get off screen sharing, I'll show you guys at home, as well as the class here, some bits with bearings for doing edges. Now there's I can't tell what that knife is, what that bit is, but it's a bearing and it's doing edge routing. So here's some of the stuff that are really good tips, and this illustrates it as good as it can be illustrated about routing. Some real do's and don'ts. So do not route the sides before the ends. If you route the sides first and go to route an end, there's a good chance you will blow out the side. So route the ends first. The end grain is always the hardest to route. And you very well may have blowout when you finish your cut, when you route the ends. But now you haven't routed the side, so your side route will eliminate that blowout. So just like it shows there, you see, as you route along, like that's a routed edge, and you go to route the end and it blows it out, and if it's already routed, then it's not good. It's harder to fix. So plan the cuts. If you're planning to route the ends as well as one or both sides of the board, route the two ends first. Here's why. End grain has a tendency to split out as the bit exits the end of the cut. So true. Route the ends first. Eliminate chips. If you route the sides first, the split out will occur on the previously shaped edge. See, don't route the sides for the ends, but if you route the ends first, you'll cut off any damage areas before you route the sides. Right, so they routed that end. That's the end grain, right? So in case of any, well, I can show the other guys at Chrome. Hopefully you all understand what end grain and side grain is, and if not, ask me after when I can pin myself, and I'll show people at home too, if anybody from home doesn't know. So moving the router in the right direction is very, very important. I'll show you when we get going what that means, but when you're standing there routing, you need to be, when you're routing the edge facing you of a board, you need to be routing from the left to the right. And when you're routing the back of a board, it's not the front edge, but it's away from you. You need to route from the right to the left. If you route in the opposite direction, if you come basically clockwise, if you route right to left on the front, you will be doing what's called climb cutting. Now there's a purpose for climb cutting, and there's a time when you want to climb cut. In climb cut, you don't use your bearing so much as you just take some fast passes, because climb cutting pulls your router into it rather than working as you move it, taking meat off. Climb cut pulls your router really fast through it. And so a climb cut would just take some meat off, take a little bit of meat off so that when you come back on a real pass, especially if you've got a wood that chatters a lot or is in danger of splinting, you can make a few climb cut passes and then make a bearing in the right direction pass. I'll show you a climb cut. Let me get going. So hold narrow strips with stops. Don't try to route super narrow stuff because you need to have that base of your router land on something. When you're routing something really narrow and it doesn't, then you need to get some stuff. See the stop blocks and the equal thickness board that your router base can ride on and not rock around, because that's how you really mess up an edge route, is by rocking. Narrow strips are difficult to route because clamps get in the way. True. Solution is to screw blocks to your workbench to corral the strip of wood. If you're routing a thin piece of wood, the bearing on the router bit will most likely extend below the piece of wood you're routing. In this case, hang the piece of wood over the edge of the bench, which you see him doing right there. It's hanging over the bench. That's the edge he's routing. The bit's going to be dropped down below that, just like you see that bit right there. Well, that bit's almost flush. Maybe down below, maybe not. But generally, your router bits do drop down below the surface. The bearings do at least. And in this case, hang the piece of wood over the edge of the bench at least a quarter inch so the bit doesn't hit the workbench. Screw a strip of equal thickness behind the long edge of the board, that one right there. So it's the thickness of the piece, equal thickness of the piece you're routing, so that your router base rides the same on it. And then screw a strip of equal thickness behind the long edge, and then a thinner stop block at the end. So you can just lock it in. Just drive some screws, some waste stock, and lock that piece in, and then hang one edge over that you're going to route on. Routing just one edge if you're going to route. Now, if you were going to route that board on all four sides, what should you do first?
The end.
Route the end, right? Yeah. Secure small work with hot melt glue. That's not a bad way to go either. It's a hot glue trick. Of course, you got to be able to sand and scrape it off and be able to do that or have it not show, right? Here's a nifty trick for securing small pieces while you route them. Because you know, if you clamp that little circle that you're going to route, you're going to not get too far when you got to move the clamp. It'd be nice to keep going. You don't want to put a screw through it, so glue it down to a block with hot glue, and that block gets you up off the deck so that your router bit bearing can drop down below the work. That's not a problem, and it's secure with a piece of hot glue, and you can just knock it out. Just take a chisel and pop it when you get done, and scrape off the hot glue. And you wouldn't want to do that in something that bottom shows a lot, or you'd have to do a fair amount of work or some work anyway to get off that hot glue, which shouldn't be tough. You should be able to knock it off with your chisel and just sand it down, and no evidence of the hot glue. But it's a good idea. I hadn't actually seen this. So the scrap should be smaller than the piece you're routing, and apply half a teaspoon of hot melt glue to the scrap and stick your workpiece to it. Allow it to cool a few minutes before you route the edge. When you're done, just twist the router piece to break it free and then scrape off the hot melt glue with a chisel or plane knife. I love it. That's really good idea. And then in making moldings with your router, you see he's edge routed, a pretty complex route. And router bits, we'll look at a bit catalog too, in case you're not familiar. There are a lot of router bits, but there are some standard bits. I'll show you that too on the board. There are some standard bits. This looks like a Coven bead. As a matter of fact, that is a Coven bead, which is a nice profile. That you can buy it in a variety of sizes and two different shanks. The half-inch shank for the bigger bit, for a larger knife takes out more meat, which may take a couple passes. But that's an edge route that is now being run to the table saw to cut that routed edge off to turn into a piece of molding. You can miter and put it inside your frame and panel door and make it a jazz. You can do all kinds of things with it. One way to make narrow moldings with your routers is to use a router table and feather boards. And that is a router table and feather boards. What they're talking about there is well, I don't know where. Does everybody know what a featherboard is? No. Oh, man, somebody, oh, no. Somebody used my 10 years old. Stop it, presses. Not only did somebody use my tin roof blade, but they laid another blade, carbide blade, right on top of that. Is that a good thing to do? Yeah, no, it's not good at all, is it? I'll take this thing home, I guess. But hey, they've been frosted all day, so. It's probably just me. You have to ask yourself, I have to ask myself. I have to look at it, that if I encounter more than 2 assholes in any given day, I am probably the asshole. And that's probably the case today. Tin roofs used to be made in Japan. Now I think they're, I'm sorry, yeah, they used to be made in Japan. And now I think this one's made in China, but Japanese steel is pretty darn good. So is Israeli steel, Italian steel. Chinese steel isn't known to be cool for tooling. German steel, of course, it's probably still the best. I did find a featherboard, so I'm gonna show you a featherboard because I suspect that not many of you know what a featherboard is. This is a featherboard. I got sidetracked because the pet blade got used. That's featherboard. So, and I'll show you at home the featherboards when we get done with this. Okay, I'll put it right up here. You can see what it is because that's a featherboard. So it allows the work to go through a router table or against any kind of a fence, and it won't allow it to get kicked back. Keeps the pressure against the fence, and allows it to go on through, but it won't allow it to go back that way. And rather than just a solid piece, right? It could just fly back. You can do it in featherboards, really good. You can put featherboards on a fence to hold the stock down, featherboards to hold it against the fence. A variety of ways. So a router table is a router, and we're going to use it as a handheld. You can see these guys are using it as a handheld. Router table is the router without the base, the router motor and collet, chuck, if you will, mounted to a table, to the underside of the table, so that just the bit sticks up. So it becomes a mini shaper. And you don't probably, most of you don't know what a shaper is. We have one. At some point, I'll show you what it's like and what kind of knives we have for it. But we use that shaper to make these solid race panel doors. And then at some point, I'll probably show you. Maybe not though. Yes, so feather boards for hold downs, router tables, really good. Okay, so your first pass for larger profiles, and we'll see some bits, see some different size profiles. It's always good to make a shallow first pass and then kind of keep dropping it. This particular bit is called an OG or a Roman OG. It's a fairly common detail in as molding or a router bit, that OG bit right there. So insert the router bit fully into the collet and pull it back out 1/8 of an inch, and you'll see me tell you about that. Let me tighten up so it's not riding down right down on the collet. You get it down the collet and you pull it up 1/8 of an inch, and then tighten it up. Sand the edge of the boards before routing them so the guide bearing will ride on a smooth surface. I rarely do that, but it's a good idea to check your board it's good and smooth before you route it. Now it doesn't have a bunch of saw marks or dimples in it, which is going to directly affect your edge route. the irregularities in the edge of the board will be definitely transferred to the router shape. Press the base of the router tight to the wood to prevent the router from tipping. Tipped router will also cut an irregular profile. Make deep profile cuts in 2 or 3 shallow passes to avoid burns. Chatter, because chatter will be this where your router bit will kind of bounce a little bit and it'll show up in that. It won't be a smooth cut. It'll be a repetitive little, what's the word? It'll look like it has chatter. And then also, you don't want it to burn. If you slow down or if it's dull, it will burn the wood, just like the sound will. Set the router depth for a shallow cut and unroute all sides and adjust the router for a deeper cut. Repeat the process. Replace your old steel bits with modern carbide bits. If you've got old steel bits, you haven't been using them for a while. They're old, they're the dirt. You might have. And there might not be any steel router bits anymore. That's what when I first started working, we had steel router bits. I had some. Clean your router bits with a special blade and bit cleaning solution to remove wood pitch. There's solutions and there's also lacquer thinner. So the required tools for this router edge guide is clamps, the dust mask, carrying protection, hot melt glue, orbital safety glasses, sanding. Edge forming router bits range from simple roundovers or bevel bits, intricate cove, OG, and classical bits. Common profiles are sold at home centers, hardware stores. For a wider selection, check online. So let's see, what is this how-to video about? I don't think it's okay. So let's look at Nana. Well, actually, it's for the Eagle. Eagle. So I got their catalogs forever. The shop probably still gets them. But you know, they have a bunch of cool bits. They have shaper knives as well. They have boring bits and drill bits. They got cool, you know, projects, a keepsake box, do-it-yourself picture frame, arch fluting jig. How nice is that? Let's look at it a bit. So there's a nice router shooter. These are very nice router shooters. We have one like that in the shop. It's really a nice bit. This is an interesting one. The lift is controlled with Bluetooth. Is that true? That's CMC. There's a spline sled for doing splines. Those are spline joints. Those joints are spline. So this is oh, I see. So MLCS, that's also one of their competitive brands. So let's just look at edge form. Tonight we're going to use that bit, 45-degree chamfer. They do come in 45 and 30 degrees, the chamfers. Let's just see. So there's a 45-degree chamfer. There's a beveling bit with a 7-degree. Bevel trimmer bits. I don't see anything different with 45. Those are the chamfer bits. There's a typical code bit. We got some codes somewhere. Yeah, I've got a bunch of edge bits in there. So That's right, I was looking for them. But this is what I made my mantle out of. This big old piece of poplar, 8-quarter yellow poplar. What is 8-quarter net? 8-quarter S2S, what is a net?
175.
1 3/4, exactly right, 1.75. So you can pass this around. There's a roundover with a step. There's some cove bits. That's all edge stuff. There's beading bits for edges. There's handrail bits. There's remember that OG bit I was telling you about? That's a typical Roman OG. There's rabbiting bit. There's roundover bit. Roundover bits are very, very common. There's a table edge bit, and then there's window and door trim. But they make like this window and door trim. So they make stick and coat bits, and we'll get into more of that maybe at some point. But just suffice to say that all of your panels that have an inside edge detail are done with stick and coat. When I say panels, I mean door panels. So door panel would be, now this is a typical stick and coat that I built with red oak panels. I had a whole bunch of red oak left over from this restaurant. I bought a bunch of it over there years ago, and still. And I know you guys at home can't see this, but if you remind me when I get off of this, I'll show you. But this is stick and coat. So this is a frame and panel door. It's a solid raised panel door. Solid raised panel door. It's not a C panel. What is that? Or is it a C panel? You know, that might be a C panel. It'd be a long C panel with a nice step. But that inside edge sticking, that's an OG sticking. It's a little bit of an elongated, smaller OG, but it's called OG sticking. So the sticking is these styles, and actually all of these 2 rails and these 2 styles were all edge stuff. So this was run all the way through. But that runs all the way through this board, all the way through there, all the way through there. This one runs all the way through. The ends of these are coped. So they have the female of that. So it copes right into that sticking detail. So it's called a cope and stick detail. So it's a great glue surface, makes it look like a miter, but it's a cope and stick. Is that cool? And that's how your doors are made, and that's how chemicals. Stick and cope. There are other ways of making them. That's a square stuck, so no sticking detail. And I told those guys, I'd show them that at home. Get off. Okay, so I'm gonna get out of this. And see where we're at.
Rodney,
Yes.
so this is a piece of material that we would like to route all around. We'll go ahead and do that and that first.
Yes, you do the 2 ends first, and then the edges. Add. So, yeah, here, I'll take that. I'm going to show it after. Okay, so let's everyone here take a break. It's now, I got 7:12. I'm going to take a super long break till 7:30, right? We'll come back at 7:30. And we'll see what we can get done. We'll see what we can get done. And in the meantime, I'm going to be amassing out here. So if you get tired of your break, let's start figuring out what we can bring in and taking some stuff over. Okay, see you guys back here. And Zach, would you please remind me to start recording? All right, good. Evan's back, Connor's back, Zach's back, Miguel's back. Teller's back and the class is back. Now, where were we? Can we go home yet? Hey, I'm going to show you guys something that I didn't get to see. You didn't get to see before. Featherboard. That's the featherboard I was talking about. That would set up on the table saw. So your fence is here and your material would pass between the fence and the featherboard, and it couldn't kick back. You'd also you could also clamp it and hold it down. Featherboard will allow the material to go this way, but it won't allow it to come back. And then this is that edge routing I was showing everybody. This is a 3/8 roundover with a step. That's cove route. Roundover with a step. Piece of 8-quarter poplar. I made a mantle out of my house, and this is the coping stick I was talking about. So the coping are all, it's all that run right there. And sticking is on the ends of the rails. It looks like that. You see how the ends of the rails? That knife is the exact female to the male of the sticking detail. So it copes in. Of coping, and coping is pretty important in finished carpentry and cabinetry and millwork and in moldings. We coat baseboards on the inside corners. We always coat baseboards on the inside corners if we can. We always coat the inside corners of crown moldings, profile crown moldings if we can. And you may not know what I'm talking about, but you will, I promise you. Not before the night's out, but before the semester's over, you'll know what coping is, even though I know you're all having trouble coping. Hopefully, I'm gonna show you a way to cope that won't be too much trouble. Now, would you all go, I need 8 people. How many are in this room right now? 8. Perfect. The 8 of you, please go out there and come back, 1 in each end. There's 4 6x6s. 1 guy in each end. That's 2 guys per 6x6. That's 4 6x6. Here, just laid it out right on these horses. And all you guys at home, you can just kick back and let them do all the work. All right? Me too.
Sounds good.
I'm gonna kick, yeah, sounds good to me too. I'm gonna kick back and let them do all the work for me too. Yes, for me too.
Hey, Rodney,
Yes,
after class, could I speak to you for a few minutes?
is that Miguel?
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
thank you.
You bet. Just remind me, because my memory's not what it used to be. Just remind me when we.
No
show
problem.
up.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, good. Okay, cool. Look at that, man. That is that's some material, some beauty. Let's get all 4 of them. So you got some sap there? Let's look at a few things. Let's go. Why don't you guys go and have a seat? We're gonna figure something out. Before we do anything, we're gonna figure something out. And let's see how we can do this. How can I do this? Where do I have the shade structure? You know, Lou, you showed me.
This is in your class material from.
I know, but you showed me how to get
Yeah, so you go on the side to force it. Yeah, courses, and then you go to all courses. And then it should be in past enrollments. It's down here for fall 21. Did you have it in 110? That's the top one.
yeah. Everybody see that here? Are we up yet? Are we live? No. But you can see it at home. So this is just to refresh your memory. This is the down view. Those are the 6x6s that 8 people just brought in. They're cut to length. This one's cut at 7.6 and this one's cut at 6.8. I don't think we changed that. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what they are. Seven, 6. 6.8. How about that? Seven, 6 and 6.8. Those are cut to length. And as you can see, they're 5.5 inches. These guys right here, these stirrups. So those are going to actually affect the edges. I don't want to chamfer down there unless. Well, I'll tell you what, let's see how. Let's see how big those things are. Shoot. Okay, no sweat, no sweat. I thought that I had, I actually did. The, where did it go? Pictures of those CBs. What does CB stand for? Anybody? Those are CB 66s. What does that stand for? Anybody? Stands for column base for 6x6. And these column bases are I think they're the CBSQs, the ones I just pulled a spec out of the folder. So these guys, these CBQs, 66s, the width of that flange, well, why does that flange? Well, I don't know. It's not 5.5. Okay, the strap. It's 10 gauge by 3. All right. Yeah, the strap. The strap H is 10 gauge by 3, and that's not the stirrup. Not to be confused with the stirrup. So at 5.5, if those are 5.5 and the straps are 3, and if the straps center, which we plan to center them, then 3 from 5.5 leaves 2.5. So there should be 1 1/4, 2.5 is 1 1/4. It should be 1 1/4 each side. So we should be fine with 1 1/4 because we're going to do a fairly small chamfer. Okay, so I think we can chamfer down, and we'll go down to 6 inches because the height of those things, the height of H is 8 3/4. So I'm going to show you. Actually, I can't even show you that. I'll have to show. I'll show you all with the shear stop. So one more time, there's the shade structure. Okay, we're gonna come 6 inches off the deck and chamfer all 4 sides, and we're gonna stop the chamfer 6 inches away from up here, because those straps are also, if I pull out my, what's the piece of hardware that we're using on top? What's that called? It's a CC. What does that stand for? Anybody?
Column cap.
Very good. It's a column cap. It's a CC 66. And it is column caps. CC 66 and those straps are, they gotta be 3 inches. They gotta be 3 by 10s. I'm gonna figure they're 3s too. And actually, somebody please grab a tape, pen, and go out there. They're in a box. You can't miss them. That big box full of those column caps, they look like that. They're sticking out. Measure these, measure the straps, measure the thing sticking up. Got it? Okay.
They gotta be.
I'm positive, but we have them, so why not measure? And then I'm gonna stop the share. Let's go back to this pin. So I took a bunch of measurements of the slab with the column bases set in concrete. I measured the slab, came out 15 by 6'6", amazingly enough. That's exactly how we drew it. I measured what was between the column bases. What's on the outside of them? Yeah, 3 by 10. 3 inches wide.
Oh, I just measured the length. You didn't want the length of
One the width.
Oh, the width. Sorry about that.
Yeah, one the width.
Okay.
I want you to ascertain that they're 3, and if they're not 3, tell me what they are. So I've got these dimensions, which means if we were going to do stock route, okay, so we're going to do stocked routes wherever we come anywhere near a joint. We're not going to run the routes all the way through. It just looks weird, especially you know you could route in place, like for instance. For instance, if we had our beam, I can't remember the cantilever is, but we're gonna figure it out. If we had our beam like that.
2.5 by 8.5.
2.5,
2.5.
even better. If we had our beam like that, you could conceivably, because we're gonna chamfer all this, right? We're gonna chamfer that, we're gonna do a big chamfer on the ends of the beams. We're gonna look like that. We're going to chamfer all 4 edges of the post, and we're going to stop at 6 inches. We're not going to run it all the way to the ground. We're going to stop it, leave it square for that 6 inch, kind of give it a little more of a foot, and not try to narrow it. I don't want to narrow or make that look any narrower. I want it to have a nice base, which will look a little better. And it's a nice little detail because you'll see when you start a chamfer. It's kind of a clean detail. Now, this isn't a chamfer. Yeah, I do have some chamfers. So when you start a chamfer, it actually creates its own detail. That right there. See that? When it starts or stops. There. That detail right there. That's a chamfer. That's the start and stop of the chamfer. So we're going to do that 6 inches up from the bottom. We'll have that little detail, right? Like that. Then we'll get 6 inches away from the top. We'll stop it too. And if we were going to route the bottom of this guy, we'd do the same thing. We'd stop at 6 inches away. We could conceivably route in place and chamfer and just make it go all the way around like that. But let me tell you how I feel about that. Let me tell you how I really feel about that. Yeah, I think that is just as cheesy as it gets. I cannot stand that look. That rounded look, that look where the router looks round, because that's exactly what it's going to look like. Because that chamfer bit goes into that corner. If you're riding this joint in place, it's gonna have this rounded thing here. Same thing here. And, you know, there are some people that doesn't bother, but it really bothers me. It's like if I was to open those doors and see a round corner hinge. It's just, to me, it's kind of low class. It means somebody didn't want to spend the extra couple of bucks or take the extra 30 seconds or 60 seconds to square out the corners. Because it just looks better. The round just looks like, well, yeah, that's how you do it when you're in a hurry, when it's fast. You don't want to go back and make it nice and clean and square. And the same thing for chamfer. Just where it really bothers me, it would probably not bother me here. In other words, if we did it here, or if I saw it, probably wouldn't even catch my eye. Might not catch my eye. But when you see things like frame and panel doors, right, where they were square, and then before they put the panel in or something, they went and just routed them, right? And as they route the corners, you don't get that clean mitered look like you do a stick and coke or mitering molding inside. You get a rounded route, and it's just looks like you're rounded or like your woodworking skills are. And I know I'm being pretty critical of, in kind of, what's the word I want? I'm being, I don't know, not picky. You know, it's just to my eye, and I trust my eye, and I trust my sense for detail and design. Now, that's not to say I know it all, or my details all that, but it is pretty good. And it is pretty good because I've done it so long, and I know what to look for. I know what looks good. I know what doesn't look good. And I've seen the really good quality work too. So I know what it looks like. So
Particular might be a good word.
particular. I think I'm a great one. That was it. That was it. So we're gonna route these ends. But maybe not now, because there's a lot of work we've got to approach it because it's all end grain. Lou and I started to do it, or we started to do it one night.
We got that for next week.
We got kind of harried. So we'll get these done. This is going to be pretty easy. And I was thinking, we don't have to worry about where to stop because we're not doing those beams. So yeah, we'll just lay these out at 6 inches. Piece of cake, really. Okay, so let's look at what we're going to do it with. We'll do this. We're going to use small chamfer bit here.
We're gonna use the Makita.
We're going to use the little cordless Makita. We'll show you bits probably in the Makita. And I wanted to show you a few bits. Just get a sense of router bits. So we talked about edge routing. This is a straight bit. It's for cutting grooves, NATOs, or rabbets. Well, I haven't even used this yet. I can't remember where I got this. I think this is this is 1 inch. So this will cut a 1 inch straight plow. It's still got the protective stuff on it. So you could put this on steel now because it's got rubber on it, but I wouldn't do it anyway. But it's a straight cut, and it's a 1/2 inch shank. Router bits are going to have a 1/4 inch shank or a 1/2 inch shank. Nothing in between and nothing besides that. When you get out of that, you're going to get into some shaper knives and shaper bits. But router bits, that's 1/2 inch shank. That's the biggest of the two shanks. And with this much carbide spinning around, you definitely want that shank. Now, virtually every router, except maybe some smaller trim routers, are going to have collets that will take a 1/2 inch. And you can remove that collet and put in a 1/4 inch, take a 1/4 inch shank. So these are all 1/2 inch shanks. It's another straight bit. Here's a 1.25 inch straight bit, again with a 1/2 inch shank. Here's a nice long straight cut 2 flute. This is a 2.5 inch cut. Oh, this is a straight cut. What is this? It's 1/2 inch. Wow, that's 1/2 inch. Okay, that's a 1/2 inch. I can't remember what I got these for. If I even got them, somebody else might have got them, and they've just been kicking around in that big box. So here's some of the edge bits. This guy, this big old honking chamfer bit, which we're going to put on the ends. It's way too big for here. Here's our router with the nice little chamfer bit in it. But it's a V grooving bit. Okay, that'll have to come out. And then here's our bit. Okay, here's our bits. So we got a bunch of edge bits. We got I should build a box for these. I had a box. I built more than one box for my router bits. That's the chamfer bit we're going to use. And that is, as you can tell, 1/4 inch shank. The difference? And shanks. So this isn't spinning as much. It doesn't have as much meat to spin. So 1/4 inch shank is perfectly appropriate for it. And I'm going to use it here. Cute little round over. This is really cute. I should use this. And I like the chamfer. I don't want to round them over. I want a chamfer. I think the chamfer is really clean, especially for that structure. I've decided the chamfer is going to be the chamfer.
Those bits are pretty expensive, right?
They're not cheap. Yeah.
50, 60 bucks. each.
No, no. You can spend that much depending upon the bit. So really 30, 40 bucks.
Those Eagle ones were kind of more, huh?
Yeah, they should actually be a little less.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't even notice how much they were, but and I could be out of it, you know. I haven't really looked for prices for 7 years. 1/4 inch shank, that's a very cool little 1/8 inch roundover. 1/8 inch radius. You could step that. I really like that little bit. That's a primo little radius to use on almost anything to ease the edge. Make a nice clean edge that's not sharp. Because sharp edges do what? They splinter. And they splinter and they look bad when they splinter and they're also not good to feel when they splinter. So when you round it over, it just eases it, it takes that sharp edge away. Here's another round over. That what I just showed you was an 1/8 inch. Which is nice for doors and stuff like that. So Jerry has in his router, on his little trim router, handheld. That's a 3/8 radius bit. 5/16. That's a 5/16 radius. Now you can drop that down and step it too, all the way down to an 1/8 inch step. Just barely make a radius or drop it down and go to a step, like that route I showed you on that big piece of poplar. Cove bit, which is the opposite of a roundover. Roundover or bullnose bit rounds over. This is a cove. Should be a 3/8 cove. 1/2 inch cove. No, 1/4 inch. It's 1/4 inch cove. 1/4 inch radius cove bit. And then what else? I've got a bigger cove bit, little bigger cove bit. I'll show this Roman OG, and an even bigger cove bit. And then the OG is called the Roman OG a lot because the Romans used it a lot. That's a very typical OG bit. And you can drop that step, all the way or some version of that. Or not at all. I'll just take it right to there and don't use the step. So you get all kinds of different details. But edge routing, like the video said, flat, left to right on the front, the back, route the ends first if you're going all the way around, stuff like that. If you're cutting, there's enough meat in this bit right here, that if you're cutting with this OG bit, you're going to want to make a couple of passes. Now, I usually freehand my first pass. Just freehand it, climb cut it, freehand it, take some meat off, and then settle down, let the bearing do its thing. And go, rather than go right to bearing and let it just do all that work at once. If you're cutting a little bit, that's fine, like just a small 1/8" radius. Now, this bit that I have in here is an interesting bit, an interesting story behind this bit. Let's get it. I forgot how to use this router all over again. This is what's called a core box bit. No, this is called it's a V groove bit. It's a V groove. It has no bearing. V groove bit. Now, when I rebuilt my cellar doors a month or so ago, they were built out of 2x6 TNG V groove. So when you go buy 2x6 TNG, they got really nice fur at Hayward's now. It used to be spruce, almost only by spruce, but now they have a really nice fur that they're stocking. But it's built like this. It shows 5 inches, so the board is chamfered. Every board's chamfered. And then this one, just like that, fits in. Only this side is not chamfered, it's square. So they're V groove one side, square the other. So the next board, the tongue goes in, the chamfer butted up against another chamfer creates what? V groove. 2 chamfers together create a V. That's why it's called V groove. So it's V groove butt. So if you put it, depending on what side you want to see, you can do the butt with no V groove, or you can do the V groove. Now, what I like about the V groove is because it accentuates the joint, so you're not really looking at the joint. If you butt, the beauty of any TNG is if your joint opens up, you still got meat behind it. You're not going to have air because there's a tongue, right? You're not going to see through, you're going to see air. But if you've got a butt, what really looks good with the butt joint is when it's butted tight. When it's gapped, it doesn't look all that good. Whereas a V groove, you can't really tell as much, especially when it's full of paint either. It just kind of goes away. So we rebuilt one of the doors, and then the other door I just fixed. It had a bunch of rot. So I had to cut out some rot, 2 places. I had to cleanly cut out rot, and then I made pieces to fit. We called Dutchmans. I Dutched in new pieces in the pieces that I cut out. I cut out nice clean pieces. I cut them to fit, just press fit it, beat them in there with glue. When they went off, they become part of it, right? But they also both were on joints because that's where the rot was right on this joint. So I had to cut out, and one was right to the edge. And one was, basically this was right in the middle of what I had to cut out. So I had new wood, really in there forever and ever, but no V groove. V groove went down, just stopped on new wood. So I used that guy, clamped a guide, measured over, and just pulled it through. Let's continue my video. So you look at my cellar doors now, you see continuous V grooves. You have no idea what I did. And that's what I did. So router, let's get that V groove bit out of there. Get that V groove bit out of here. All these guys. When you want the chamfer bit, right? Wrap around it over a bit. There's the right. Okay, V groove bit. We'll keep out. The chamfer bit can go back in the V groove bit. I've got to make that. Maybe I'll do that. I'll do a maybe next semester, maybe when we do 115, perhaps when we do 115, what I might do is I might do a box making class. Because boxes are killer, and I'm a box meister. I show you guys how to make killer boxes, right? And just to give you a little preview, we make boxes 6-sided, and we put them all together 6-sided. You know what I'm talking about? You make the box with 4 sides a bottom and a top all together. So it's six-sided. So how do you get it into it? How do you open it up? We cut the top off on the table saw so that the grain all runs the same. It's 4 cuts, tops off, grain keeps going, then we hinge the top or however you can do the top, right? But box making is really fun. We do that sometimes. So let's get this off of here. You guys can come around and watch this thing come off. How to do it. There's a couple of ways to do it. Ways this button here, there's 2 wrenches, right? 2 wrenches, and then John, would you man that for me? 2 wrenches. One, you can go in right here, and excellent. You go in right here, and you can get to the bottom of that, especially if this were up, and this one goes like that. But we're not doing it that way because we have this really cool thing right here. It's called an arbor lock. That locks the arbor. So by pushing that, now all I got to do. I might be going the wrong way. Let's see. Must be going. It's got to be the right way. That's good. We'll get it. I'll get it. You guys are supposed to say, what do you mean we, Kimosabi?
We're providing moral support, I think.
So this is off, okay? That's off. Ah, come on. Come on. Right? Yeah, that's off. That's definitely off. We're gonna get it.
Anybody on Zoom want to try?
Yeah, anybody on Zoom want to try it? I need a cheater. That should be off. It is off. This is definitely off. Try that one. Try that for me. Let me see if I can find a cheater.
And if it comes this
I
way.
need a pipe. I need a piece of pipe. Yeah. Move a little. But then, well, then maybe we're tightening it. That should be, that should be tightened.
That pushing it together tightens it.
This is going.
What's that? What's that?
This is going.
No.
Oh, I might. Find a bigger one. So
That's not big enough.
that, this, okay, that's tightening it. That's tightening it.
There's 5 there. So that was loose under there.
How many people does it
I
take
swear,
to
I haven't
loosen
shown-
around?
Because it's going left. to
Yeah,
the
it
left.
should be this way, right? Yeah. Yeah, this is the way. Hand me one of those pipes.
The folks at Zoom, stand by. We're having some technical difficulties.
Technical difficulties.
There you go.
Oh, hey.
Sometimes you just need a bigger camera. What's that? Oh, I can't remember if I was doing it. I can't remember if I was doing it right or not either. So there's the V grooving bit. But I just, I gotta slow down. There's the chamfer bit. All right. So when you drop on, when you put in the, pick out of the thing. Know if this has a 1/2 inch collet. I kind of suspect it doesn't have a 1/2 inch collet just because the size of the router. Pretty sure it doesn't. So you put the bit in and you let it bottom out, right? And then push that arbor lock, turn the nut a little bit, snug it up just a little bit. Finger tight, and then pull it up about 1/8 of an inch. Get it tight, At least tighten that. That ladder. Pull this up, Lou. Pull it up. This little back. Yep. You should be able to take router wrenches. When you're tightening, just go like, see that? Can you see that at home? Can you guys see that what I'm doing? That's
Yeah, we
tight.
can see it.
And then when I break it down, I'll go the other way and just squeeze my hands together. Close them up. Okay. Stay there. Stay there. Stay there. Stay there. Stay there. It's not that big a deal if it doesn't stay up. By the way. Yeah, that's perfect. And then just good squeeze together. You feel the tension. Now, rather than plunge this baby, we're gonna set it
In a good angle,
like that.
downward angle.
Now, if we want this thing to cut any deeper, because I think I'm as deep as this will cut, and we'll have to take and pull a router out of the collet a little bit if we want it to go any deeper. So let's see how deep it goes. We'll do a little test chamfering here. Matter of fact, you guys go grab me there's one of these out there that doesn't have any chamfers on it whatsoever. Can you do that for me, Trent? Thank you.
Is it fully charged?
Who knows? Who cares? I've got the same battery fully charged and
Somewhere in the
really, really close. I got 4 of them charged up, so I wasn't even thinking about or caring much about it. But you know what? Let's at least make it so we can put it all the way deep. We want it all the way deep. Right? Here, hold it up. Here, let's see how far we got. Hold it up like right there. Right? Still got plenty of pitches. Now, all of these things, like the table saw, the router collets, they're designed to spin to tighten. So they're not designed the opposite way. So when they spin really fast, they're spinning to stay tight and not spinning the opposite way, which is really a good thing. Really good thing. So you do not want this thing at the RPMs these guys go at. You do not want this. So let's take it all the way down. Well, you know what? We'll take it that far and see what you think. Then we'll take it a little further. And we're not going to do the ends in this case.
Try to split end or like do it the wrong way to see. if
No,
it's
let's.
split.
This is a funk dog piece to it. No, let's not use it. I don't think it's sticky or everything. But I'll just use the one we have going. We got some undone edges on it, and it's not. It doesn't have a sap.
Is funk dog a technical term?
Yeah. It is. Okay, so which way should I go routing here? Which way should I start?
Left or right?
Yeah, on this side.
Go that way, right?
Yeah.
So this is big enough. We don't really have to clamp it. Let's just fire this baby up. Here we go. I got to familiarize myself with this rotor every time I use it. You see, I'm not letting the bearing touch. This is climb cutting. We can climb cut and then. Remember, I just dropped it a little bit. So that would be a cute little chamfer, but we definitely want a bigger chamfer than that. And let's have a one of those red, those new. I think they'll open up enough. Yeah, please. Is there a little bigger one? The one behind it is slightly bigger. The blue one, yeah, the blue one, please.
Just that one?
Yeah, just the one. Okay. We'll just keep this guy in place. Keep it from moving around on me. Good. Let's get this. Hand screws would be good for this too, right? Remember those wood hand screws? Drop it in, then clamp it. So you can get the clamps out of the way. The hand screws are low. So that gives come and show them, John, and then you guys look. Take a look at what I just did. See it? Now what I'm going to
Mighty
do?
fine chamfer.
That's about half of a chamfer. Say it again. What was that,
I
Zach?
just said that's a mighty fine chamfer.
Mighty fine chamfer. That it is. That's what Zach said. He said that was a mighty fine chamfer. So now I'm not going to go through how to use this as a plunge router right now. At some point I might, but that's a whole class to show you how to use a plunge router in its various settings. This way we're going to use it just fixed. Okay. Let's see what this one does. This should give us the whole chamfer. So I dropped it a little deep. We don't want that edge. It's not. We don't want that edge. This is good. At least I know, which is why we have waste stock, which is why we try it out on other pieces first. Okay, so let's go ahead and put this up. Get that out of my way. Like that.
So that funny edge was because it's way out, or should be.
No, it's
lower?
This is a little too low by 6 inch maybe. And then with the full life, see, I'm not letting the bearing cut. And I'll climb cut it. I'm running with the grain. This is, it's a super sharp bit. It's a really tight grain. It's very tight grain through. But you can see where I paused. See where the thing kind of rocked. And it doesn't have a huge base either. This is not the ideal router for what we're doing. They're a bit like the one that you saw with the twin handles and the round base. That would have been a much better router for this edge routing. But we're going to do it this way. So I'm going to go ahead and route the first one, and we're going to do it. We're not going to make multiple passes. We're going to do it just like this. We're going to lay out 6 inches. Somebody grab me I need a speed square or something like that. Any kind of speed. So 6 inches from the top. We'll do it even though that strap, right, will be down here. That's okay. We're not going to try to stop at the trap, at the end of the strap. We're going to stop it at 6 inches. We're going to do that at 6 inches. They're totally arbitrary numbers, right? And actually, you know what? Let's use 5.5. I like that because these are 5.5 inch boards. So we'll go 5.5. In this case, we don't really need to set up any kind of stop, but we know we're going 5.5. And yeah, I'm finding a speed square.
Maybe in here or?
Well, there should be a bag of speed squares in there, but there's one in that blue box. Wow, somebody marked these guys at 5.5 already. Did somebody already do that? Is it tonight?
No, we might have done it already.
Wow. Okay, cool. Good idea. And actually, we might want to vacuum, because I hate blowing too much stuff around here with computers on. And normally I'd line these up and just continue the lines, but you know, this doesn't have to be all that accurate. You just be as accurate certainly as it needs to be. We got a lot of routing to do. So I'll make the first pass, and then we're gonna want people just to step up and start routing. And maybe what I'll do is I'll do this one on the back side. And just kind of watch and see if you can pick up any techniques from me. And I think, because the router throws a lot of, I mean, anytime you're machining wood, it does throw, what's that? It does throw. Just throw chips. Just throw wood chips. It's the most uncomfortable headgear I've ever worn in my entire life. This is made for people with oval heads. Oh,
Shaped like an egg.
I can't wear it. I wish I could, but I can't. So when you're routing, you got to at least wear a pair of glasses. Or that. Okay, so where do I want to start?
Left side.
See, I love those. Wear those, but I can't see them without my glasses. So yeah, I want to go left to right and then come across the back side. So here we go. And we're chamfering all four corners. We're softening the edges. We'll leave them square where they meet the column bases, where they meet the column caps. Same amount top and bottom. So it doesn't really matter which is the top and which is the bottom at this point. So here we go. What's another thing? You guys, if you see me do this again, stop me. Because the last thing I want to do is get this thing pulled into a router bit and get my face pulled into it.
That would be where.
The last thing I want to have happen.
Well, it fits your head.
It'd be fun for you guys. Huh?
Where's not?
Oh, yeah, you got it. What'd you do?
I loosened the top.
Oh, wow. It was pretty tight, huh?
There you go.
Okay, good. Good one. Well, this now is kind of weird. I'm gonna find that. Yeah, kind of rather kind of wants to pull it there. So this is pretty good stuff to climb cut on because fur does like to splinter. Fur likes to splinter. So by climb cutting, especially with these hard knots and stuff, this is just a big splinter, a big chunk waiting to fly out. So I'm going to climb cut, which means I have to have a fair amount of control to do that. And so when you guys are routing, don't give up control of this router. What you're trying to do is keep it steady and keep it flat, not have it do this or anything like that, but flat on its face. Now, you haven't got a ton of base to work on with either, right? I mean, technically what we should be doing, if we were smart. That one.
Setting up a guide.
You got it. Now, if we route like this should be much better. We just gotta make sure, and the thing of it is if we come this way, it's okay, because we're chamfering anyway, right? If we do nick it, we don't want to nick it. That's not what we're about on this pass. They're level and all that. They're the same thickness, right? Same size, they should be. Yeah. They look good too. But just be careful. This makes you gotta be twice as careful. And I can't do it. I can't see. I can't have my vision. This is more trouble to me. That's what, let's go back. It wasn't a bad idea. It's just. Let me get clean, and that's a big chamfer. Pretty big chamfer, huh? It would be nice to, be nice not to bump up against these hard edges. Now, a small subtle chamfer would be nice too, right? But this is really, they're nice, they're hefty pieces. I'm gonna try to clean this route up a little bit before we continue on. So we're going over this weirdness here. Remember what it said? The sand? Yeah. I was really concerned with it. If this were a finished project, I'd make sure that we sanded these edges and sanded that edge. And that's going to give us that little weird bump. But we've got a big old muffler, so it's just going to be the way it is. It's going to be the way it is, and it is the way it is, by the way. I'm trying to keep it comfortable. It's like something about the feet on the table saw and the joint and everything, and not try not to stop if you can help it, because that's where the burns come in. That's got nice thermal protection up there. Ooh. So I should be using a bigger router for this. Definitely should be using a bigger router for this. So let's go ahead and get, who wants to route? Anybody want to route? Okay, so I'll let you route the back side, right? You route the back side, you're gonna move this way, you're gonna wanna try to get in so you can see that baby. Right? So, now, if you miss it by a little bit, that's okay. The other thing we could do is we could set up a clamp here so you started right on it. We could do that too, right? But you can
Like,
kind of see
the
it.
Edge on there, or put the center on the line.
You want that to be there. But at this point,
Okay.
because that one's there, you probably want to go just a tiny bit past. And then the clamp cut, you're gonna go this way. And you're just gonna really control it and not use the bearing. Just let it kind of walk it and then bearing to it.
All right.
Okay, right up. You ready? I'll tell you what, I'll start this part
Yeah.
for you. You gotta press the one on the outside first. That unlocks it. And then top. The time cutting gonna start to take away. And what we should do is drop it and make some a real short pass and then make a final pass. So I'm gonna do that right now. Let's make a little, so you can make a shorter pass. Almost the end thing. And it won't be taking as much meat. When I say short, just less meat. Let's just do that much. And then we'll come back and make it a whole chunk. Okay? Here we go. Watch still, bro.
Are we going to, switch?
You gotta bust.
This is fine.
Okay, okay, yeah. So don't use it, just come forward.
Sure not screw up.
I wasn't started with this, worry about that. Now you're taking a lot less meat, just try to keep it flat. Oh my God. That'll help. That'll help. Come on, stop that. Put it on. No, that's not bad. You have it right the first time, just like that, Makita, right? You see Makita there? No, you don't. See it's upside down? If you're seeing Makita upside down, you're seeing it the wrong way. Makita, right? And also left hand,
Maybe I was just doing on this, 'cause it's too, the new bit is too small.
oh yeah, you just haven't hit it yet. Yeah. So go ahead, go ahead. Still move that smoothly and slowly, just keep going and go a little faster. You won't have to climb cut.
What about the mouth that's coming up? What about the mouth that's coming up?
That's gonna be fun.
Oh, that's why we didn't run out.
Oh, did it?
It felt like heavy, This one might work.
Wait, you know what? I should have another one. No, don't use them. That was gonna use a bunch. You need a bunch.
Just charge the one that.
Yeah, and when you're done routing, just lift it up. Don't just take it away from the work and lift it straight up while turning it off. All right, let's get somebody else to wrap and do all 4 edges.
But that's not finished, right?
Pardon me?
That's not finished.
No, it's not finished. Definitely not finished.
Oh, okay.
Let's do all 4 edges with the router bit here, and then we'll go back and clean it up. So who's next? Lou?
I think you want.
Aaron Dwelling.
Young Eve first.
Do you have a line? We don't. We haven't got a line on this one. Nikita faces you, bud. Do not ever want to start your router with the bearing.
My bit was off.
Up against, yeah, you just make sure you got a decent purchase, right? Yeah. And then go ahead and we'll sure that goes. Yeah. Decent purchase, then fire it up and make sure your bit's not touching, okay?
Can I chip in? Like Mr. Running was doing it like from this side. Yeah. So but this protects you also. Oh yeah.
Just hung up on something. Pretty rough. Hopefully, hopefully, You're gonna clean that up. The next batch will clean it up. When you drop it, the next batch will drop it. Don't worry about it now. Good one, man. Good one. Next. That's all right. But be careful with your fingers there. That's fine. It gets another route. This is just. Who's next? No. Go and do the backside.
Do it again.
Wait, try to already do it? No.
Yeah.
Done it. Come on. So you can start on the right side and move that way on the back.
You also put that hat on.
Yeah. Always you need glasses. Try those. Maybe dust them off on your shirts.
Just log with the mask.
Match out, put the glasses over and you show.
No, you don't want to touch it when you turn on. Make sure it's not touching when you turn on. All right. Good. So, just remember that you are in complete control of keeping this guy flat. So you see how much purchase you have there? You see how much purchase you have there? I'm all the way into here. I'm not just here. All right, so that's all fine and dandy, but if you notice, every route I did, I routed like that. So I had way more, it felt to me like I had a better purchase. So however it feels good to you, if this feels good to you, but to me, it feels like it could go like that. I want either that or that. I might want to go like that and get that. Okay. Yeah. So a bit of an angle and you'll have a better purchase, I think. Looking good. Looking good. You can see you're lifting it up. That's it. Yeah, you've just kind of lifted it completely off. Now this knot has got a little bit of raised part, so you just kind of just get a feel for it and try. You remember you're trying to keep it down on its. Let's see if I can do anything when I come across it. I might not be able to do it, but. Yeah. There you go. Keep going. You're good. You're doing good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see it. The knot's a bit proud, so it rose up a little bit. But when we get the big chamfer on, it'll all come out in the wash. And this is going to be nice. That big chamfer. Yeah. Yeah. with that? Remember, we're gonna clean all these guys up. Who else wants to route? Alex wants to route. Okay, we'll do it all in this thing. Let's put this guy over here. And then I think what we'll do is that I'm gonna try to get, next week, get the festival set up with vacuum, because we have a fair amount of routing to do. I forgot how much routing this really is. If you think about it, we've got 16 edges by approximately 8 feet, so we've got like 144 feet per route. 2 passes, so 288. So it's a fair amount of feet, things
Is that not including the beams?
not including the beams.
Yeah.
And the beams, we're just gonna do the ends. What's happening?
Just
Glasses, please, thank you. You can do that. Looking good.
Saturday class for James. What do you think about doing some of this on Saturday?
We'll do it. Unless he's got, I gotta look for the city's got anything in mind. He wants me to do it. That's a good idea.
Probably.
Probably.
But actually, we, some after in between do it.
Yeah, no, we'll do some routing. Yeah. Good idea. Because that was good move, actually. Smooth and good. Who hasn't run it? Who hasn't run a hole?
Thursday's running.
Ben and Danny haven't run. Watch the backside, bro. Starting over you.
And John.
And John hasn't run it. Oh,
Yeah, we're gonna be here late.
we're not doing them all. We'll get, just, Daniel do his run.
I'm here Saturday. I can do it Saturday.
Okay. That's it. There you go. There you go. So check this out. Yeah, I know you guys are being super careful. You are, and it's better to be careful than not careful. But this is how I'd like you to move. With this, we're hardly taking anything here, right? You don't have to go. You just keep that right. I know, but you loose but firm, right? And then just move. See how you don't want to push it fast, but
Yeah.
you know, you give yourself. You can just
Don't look
You
at
can
it
move
like
out.
that.
Good speed too, Daniel. So who's next? Who's next? So if it was important, right? If it was super important, this guy here, right? If this were really, really important, then we set up some kind of stop. So you come and stop. You know, we cut a 5.5 inch block or whatever it turned out to be, it stopped it. So it needed to go past it. So it'd probably be that 5.5 inch block less, whatever that was, center of router, outside of router to that. We figured that out, right? On a piece of waste stock, and then just clamp the stop block or screw stop, whatever. So you just come up and bam, stop. It'd be the same everywhere. We can eyeball this. It's, you know, nobody's gonna tell. Those lines will be gone. No one will tell if it's a little bit past or.
Nobody's gonna tell except for Rodney.
I know. I'll always know.
Both sides? Yeah, both sides, right? Yeah, they should.
So Ben and John and Luke can wait. It's gonna get. I'm gonna make a little route of each of these. this.
I want to route a lot, so Saturday it's on.
You're gonna do the backside, okay? Okay. That's it.
I just wanted to make this
Yeah,
here.
good. Good one. Good one. John Tapia. And then we'll finish these. They're gonna look really sculpted. You can see what they'll look like. Like that. Is it? Regal, John Regal. John Regal. Oh, I'm gonna. Was it test? You all passed? Good job. It's getting late.
Started now.
Did you do roll call?
We did? No.
You have to press that first one first, the light comes on, then you're golden. That's power. Excellent job. I might add. What an excellent job. Yeah, good to see you. All right, let's call this. Let's sit down for a few minutes and then before we leave, we're gonna need to vacuum. So sweep and vacuum. In Put a second in there and you like a one guy left.
There's only one guy left on it?
No, they're all here. I only thought Zach was here with you all stuff around. Plus, I gotta talk to Miguel anyway afterwards. So, yeah, everybody stuck around. On. Sorry. Perfect, thank you. Good job. Dang good job there. Yeah. Everybody. Good job. Good job, good job, good job. Thanks, John. That's what I'm talking about, right? Beautiful. There is attachments to that, but you're almost there, huh? Good job. Put it in that, open the door, the right-hand door, the tool, stick it in the Makita battery operated skill shot cases, the bottom right-hand cubby. Just drop it in that case. Oh, tell you guys an interesting story. All right, good work. So an interesting story before we part company. The people that we met, who were our neighbors, really fine people, really enjoy them a lot, like them a lot. And they seem to be fairly religious people. They're involved in missionary work and stuff like that, right? I get along with everybody, as long as I'm not proselytized. I just don't really like to be told what to believe by anybody, but I don't mind hearing about other people's beliefs at all. I mean, I'm totally into it. I love it. I live believers, you know, as long as they're not exclusive believers, like their way is the only way and there are no other ways, or we're all going to hell if we don't believe that. I don't like that. So they're not that way. They're very nice people, but they also told my wife, she told my wife some really disturbing things. And I got to know them enough in the 2 weeks we were at Oso. Well, I feel like I really got a sense of this couple, and I really like them. I don't, nothing sets off my radar, you know, for weirdness or fringe, and I got pretty good fringe radar. But so she told my wife these really disturbing things, which I asked her about yesterday. We got into this conversation. Excuse me. It's not boring. She was abused as a child by her father, sexually abused. Bad news. Matter of fact, not much that makes me this angry than even contemplating that. Someone hurting an innocent, anyone hurting an innocent, but especially sexually abusing a child. Death is just too good for them, as far as I'm concerned. Way too good. It's a real big hot button for me. So not only did that happen to her, but apparently, this was in Alaska. Tell us about her dad, the people who's involved with her in like a coven, and they're Satanists. It's satanic worship, and they have ritual sacrifices and cannibal. I mean,
They sacrifice like kids.
yeah, and cannibalism and all the unbelievably horrific things your mind can conjure up. Now, I just can hardly fit it in my mind. And I'm actually kind of sorry I'm telling you guys, but I don't know, is this real? Because you don't seem like people that would make this stuff up. So it seems real. And I haven't really gone too far into how real is this, because in some ways I don't really want to know. And in most ways, I don't really want to know, because basically I told her, you know, if your dad was alive and I ever met him, he probably wouldn't be alive. I just don't, I'm not giving anybody any slack that I'm a kid. Nobody. So it just was, oh man, I'm telling you, it was like, then maybe that's why it put me in the mood I'm in today. But I just thought, this is alive in the world. So besides being alive in the world, all the love and goodness and kindness and all the things that we have to be grateful for and thankful for in all of our lives. And I know you all do just as much as me. There's also apparently this stuff happening on the planet. So I don't necessarily believe in the devil. I believe like it's mankind's just, you know, typically mankind's desires gone wrong can manifest like the devil. Personally, I feel like heroin is probably the highest and worst manifestation of the devil on the planet today for humans. That's just me. War is pretty bad too, but I don't know, man. You know, I'm a Pollyanna of sorts. I just go along through life thinking that, you know, the best in people, and that people are basically really good people in their hearts, right at the deep at the core of them. But apparently that's not true. I don't still, I say apparently because I still, well, in the first place, I don't want to believe it. And in the second place, I'm just not 100% convinced. It's one thing being told about it by someone that I trust, that I don't think is lying to me. It's another thing actually experiencing it. God knows I've never experienced it or anything even like it, but I'm certainly aware of the fact that children are abused by other adults, including their parents, in ways besides that way I said, always. But there's no cleanup for me. There's no way anybody in my world gets to hurt an innocent ever. So that gave me a lot of food for thought, and you know, I'm kind of back to where I started with the whole thing, which is I'd rather not know that's going on. It's just like I don't watch the news. You know, people say, well, don't you want to know what's going on? No, I actually don't want to know what's going on. And when our former president was president for those 4 years, 3 days after the election, I got rid of TV. Hopefully never to come back into my house, because every time I saw him, his image, or heard his voice, I could feel my blood pressure climbing. So I just stopped. I didn't want to do it. I don't want to participate anymore at all. And so I had to get it back because a guest wanted to watch the World Series. And so we have regular TV, the basic channels. So, you know, you could watch the news at our house, but I don't ever watch the news. My wife likes to watch it. Her parents like to watch it at her parents' house in Wichita. That's just on all the time. And, you know, I guess it's interesting. I find it pandering. I find it pandering to the worst of people for the most part. News, it's the news that people want to hear is sensational. It has to do with something usually not too good. There's not that, I'm not saying there isn't good news. And believe me, I'm not even mentioning fake news, whatever that is. Made up news, I guess. I don't know. You know, I don't believe everything I hear, but I kind of believe a fair amount of stuff I hear. If it's, you know, it's trust but verify. I will verify stuff. In other words, I kind of believe the stuff in Ukraine is happening right now. I don't think that's made up. But I don't need the details. I don't want to know the details. I do not want to know how many people got killed. Besides which, if you're aware of the fact, this news right now, the stuff that's happening in Ukraine, it's the same news all day long. It's not, there's nothing different has happened. I mean, yeah, something maybe is different happened on a given day, but the news is the same news. It's recycled. Every channel you go to, it's the same news. Maybe different slant, maybe not. Maybe it's the same people on the ground, you know, saying this is what happened. I'm sorry, I'm just not interested. here's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in you. I'm interested in me. And I'm interested in my neighborhood. And I'm interested in my state and my country. And I'm interested in my continent. And I'm interested in my world. But I also am painfully aware of what I am able to affect. Do you know what I mean by that? There are certain things I can affect. Like I can't affect the war in Ukraine. I'm giving money. I'm trying to decide who to give it to. I want to make sure it really goes to the place where it does some good. And then maybe that will have some effect. But personally, I can very little affect what's going on there or what's going on anywhere, what's going on with the children that are being abused or any of that stuff, right? So what can I do? Somebody like me that wants to do something. I not only want to take care of my side of the street, but I want it to get better for other people. So what I do is I keep my side of the street clean, and I'll keep your side of the street clean too. And I try to work in my sphere of influence, which is here, and be the best Rodney I can possibly be in my sphere of influence, and try to practice the principles and try to, when I'm wrong, promptly admit it and do all that stuff. And that's how I affect the world. That's how I'm going to change the world, by changing my environment. Because that's the one thing I can affect. I can affect my environment and the stuff that I am in contact with. I can't affect the stuff that's happening. It's completely out of my control. And so many things are out of your control. Most things are out of your control. Now, for a person like me, fear of loss of control is my ultimate issue. I want to control everything. I not only want to control everything in my life, I want to control everything in your lives. So imagine being married to me. I'm surprised she hasn't killed me in my sleep. I work hard to let go of control. Really do. And this space and grace thing, it's like, I just want to keep the thing. Space and grace. Everybody deserves it. You all deserve it. I deserve it. We deserve that space and grace to be the people that we are, right? You don't need to be the people that I want you to be. You need to be the people that you are. And in some cases that you want to be, but truly, you are all fantastic people. Every one of you. You're incredible. All of you. You're bright-eyed, you're bushy-tailed, you're all smart, you're all interested, you're all young, you're all strong, you're all healthy. I believe that you are limited by the conception that you have of yourselves. And that's your main limitation. That's my main limitation, is how I conceive myself. And the bigger I conceive myself and the more things I conceive myself as, the more I am. That's how I become things that I'm not. It's how I became when Pat said, hey, would you consider teaching? Well, I never taught anything in my life. I thought, yeah, I want to do that. I want to become that. And so I worked hard at it. And I can't really say, I am a teacher, I am an instructor. I'm not formally trained, but I like the way I do it. I'm happy with it. And I haven't heard a whole lot of feedback from anybody that's unhappy with it, other than whoever ratted me out to the president of the college a couple weeks ago. You know who you are, whoever you are. I just don't want to know who it is. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I forgive you also, if you're out there or in here. It worked out really good for everybody concerned. I'm glad I wasn't gone for the whole time. So thanks for your attention. I'll see some of you tomorrow. I'll see everybody here. And hopefully everybody that can make it, please make it. Next Wednesday, we'll probably have the chamfering done, but maybe we won't have the big chamfers done. The chamfering is a lot more work than I remembered it. A lot more work. And the big chamfers, you see the big chamfers, and the big chamfers on the end grain of the, we'll get chamfering down and then we'll attack that end grain. And I've got a better way of doing it than the way that Lou and I were doing it with it sitting up. I got a much better way of doing it. So we'll get all the chamfering done, and then we'll all have a blast putting this stuff up. And so next week, see you here. We'll go over what you can expect in the midterm next week too, and then the week following the midterm. Okay.
All right, thanks, Rodney.
Drive safe. Be careful out there. Stay healthy, everybody.
Thank you,
Stay
Rodney.
healthy. Miguel, I'll hang around.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Hey, thanks you guys. You guys too. You guys, the beginning of the
You
week.
Rod.
Have you read Mastery of Love yet?
No, is it by him?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I want to get that. Have you read it?
Yeah, I'm reading it right now.
Cool,
Yeah, I'll let you borrow it if you want after.
please.
Yeah. It's pretty
But
good.
don't rush, Louis, don't.
Oh, no, I take it in. I take like 6 months to read it.
Oh, yeah. You read it before or after this one?
After, he wrote 3 more. He wrote that one, Mastery of, I think it's like Tolerance or something with a T, and then another one. But you should look them up.
Cool, I will. Thank you.
Yeah.
If you could sign and email that letter. that'd be- Or do you want me to print it out and bring it tomorrow?
No. If there's a backup, if you don't get it from me in the morning, yeah.
Okay.
I doubt I'll do it tonight. I'm gonna go and just go to sleep.
Do you want a reminder text in the morning?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay,
I'll do it.
what time is good for you?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Whenever I look at my phone is when I get your text.
Okay, right on. Have a good night.
See you later. Thanks, man.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
Mucho. Oh, hey, do me a favor. Would you turn the light off and shut and fill the padlock?
Sure.
Thanks. There you go. What's happening, man?
Oh, nothing much, just been busy working on this lady's house that some other contractor guy used to work for church or office and sabotaged it. Oh, bad. When you name it, he did it.
Too bad.
But so 3 years ago or longer actually, I got into some trouble
Yeah.
and before COVID, and it was right when I split with my old lady, and I moved out of town. Long story short, it's finally, my court dates are finally here.
Okay.
And I know it's kind of short notice, but it's on Wednesday, and I was just gonna see if maybe if you would be willing to write us like a letter, just to let like just know that I'm going to, like, to verify I'm going to school. And
Is it tomorrow your court date is?
no, it's on the 3rd.
The 3rd. So it's
Thursday.
Thursday. Today's the 1st, right? 2nd.
Yes.
And the 3rd. So
Tomorrow's
it's
the
Thursday.
2nd.
So I'll write it tomorrow. But what you need to do is, you have my email address?
Yes.
Send me an email and just say, hey, it's Miguel. Please write this letter. Anything you want included in it, but just make sure I have your name, your phone number, your address, all that stuff, right?
Okay.
Just and I check my emails every morning. I'll get that email and I'll go and I'll sit down and I'll do it when I'm nice and fresh.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you can just put down whatever. I don't want to kind of influence or anything like
Oh,
that.
that's okay. I mean, I'm just gonna say that I've known you for a couple of semesters, and then I know that you've been coming back and you really want to finish the school, and you've communicated that to me. I'll write you a good letter, buddy.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate that. And then I'll have to show you some stuff that I'm making for this lady for her house. Like a little custom like shelves or a little self-standing table, I guess, for her dining room.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
And then I'm doing all butcher block countertops and butcher block island.
Wow, cool. We had that in our house, and now we just have the butcher block island. But
Oh, nice.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
we
we,
see pictures. I want to see pictures.
Yeah, no, definitely. She has a bunch of them from when I started the project. And so it's literally now I'm just got I'm finishing up the flooring in the kitchen. I did about 1,800 square feet.